Welcome back to Yerushalmi Shekalim Daf. Yaakov Ben Rav Shimon is the outside today. We are up to Kavzain Amud Base. We are Gilul Babin Yamin Shem Ravasi. Yeah, Shnei Dayana Gezelas Naditzcham Shem Salishka. Various judges who used to judge on monetary things, they would take their wages from the Trumas Halishka. Some say because they were needed, like it's considered use of the Karbonos, because they would judge and knas, people who do Averas in the base of Mikdash, like Chaim who brought things which are possible. And some say other things, Hakrava was, what's stolen and what's possible for a Karbo and various things. But not other judges elsewhere in the country then, just for these judges. Okay. Shmuel Amar. Shmuel said, Noshim Agas B'Pareches, the women who weave the Pareches, they get their reward from that. Ruchuna Amar Mitras Bedek Habayis, which is the general treasury fund, the fund for building work and so on. When people gave things stam without saying what it was for, we went for Bedek Habayis. Okay. Ma'aplik, now what are they arguing about? So Shmuel Aveleh, Shmuel treats making a pareches kekelim, like vessels, because they need it for the karbonos, like klishares. You sprinkle the blood on it and so on. And klishares come from Trumas Halishka. Whereas Rav Chuna Avalei Kabili, he says no, it's part of the building, because it's instead of a wall, and therefore it came from the Bedek Habayis. Rav Chizkiah said, Tana Rav Yehuda Gregorus, Rav Yehuda learnt, this was his name, Rav Yehuda Gregorus. You have in Bavli, you had a Yehuda Bar Gregorus, okay. HaKeteres v'chol kabonos hatzibur. So you got Keteres and Kabonos, both with Trumas Halishka. They would come from the Trumas Halishka funds. Mizbach hazahav v'chol klishares, both maneh moisa nesachim. They came from the leftover of the nesachim, of the wine, etc. All klishares. Mizbach ha'oila. By the way, Rabbi Yehuda here holds like Rekiva. The klishares are bought from moisa nesachim. Remember there was an argument on that. Mizbach ha'oila v'hechal v'azarais, which is all the building structure. Ba'in mikebedek habayis is the other treasury fund. Chuz la'azarais, areas like the walled city, the wall, the towers. Ba'in b'shiyarei halishka come from the leftovers of the lishka. So the people things for the town of Yerushalmi is done from Hegdash because the whole town had kedusha as far as eating kachim kalim. Yeah. So the walls of Yerushalmi came from the leftovers of the lishka. Now we learned in a price that Abnei Yerushalmi, the stones that they were built in the walls of Yerushalmi and the towers, Ma'alin Bahen, they would be an Isa Me'ilah if you used it for your own purposes. Now if you're telling me that these walls are coming from Shiyorei Alishka, Shiyorei is only the leftovers, it's after the main coins have been taken. Now V'chiesh Me'ilah b'Shivrayim, is there Me'ilah in Shivrayim? There's no din Me'ilah on that, on what's left over, the remnants. So you see from the Braisa that the walls can't come from Shiorei Alishka. If there's Hekdash there, it must be some other Hekdash. So the Gemara answers, the truth is the walls did come from Shiorei Alishka. Now the Braisa which says there's din Me'ilah, that's like the other opinion, Reb Meir. So Reb Meir held, when you take the 3 lots of collecting the coins 3 times a year, whatever's left, it's still got Kedusha. You can still go back later on and take more money from there for the Karbonos, right? He holds there is a din Me'ilah with the Shivrayim, with the leftovers after you've taken out the coins that you've taken out. Okay? Rav Chidna said, wait a minute. Now, Rav Meir only said his din as Me'ilah with Shiyarim, with the leftovers, that's the money within that year, because they're available for Karbonos. But here, we're talking about we're talking about the leftover money from previous years. You can't use it for this year's Karbonos anymore. And so with this, even Rav Meir agrees there's no din Me'ilah. So the Braisa which says the stones has Me'ilah, it must be that the walls do not come from the Shiyorei Halishka, and not like Rabbi Yehuda Gregorus wanted to say. Rav Chizkiah said, Tana Rabbi Yehuda Gregorus, Hashulchan v'Menorah v'Mizbachos. So Mizbach ha'oila, Mizbach ha'Keteres, and the Pareches, Ma'akvin as they are essential Karbonos which are brought, if you don't have these things, are not kosher. If you don't have a pareches in place, if you don't have a shulchan in place, it's not kosher. The Chachamim say, the only thing is the karka v'keren. Now this is like the ledge around the mizbeach. Is that what they call it there? And the horns, the corners, as it were. Yeah, the mizbeach had 4 corners, right? They went and these were ma'akev the kabbalas because they didn't have mizbeach, karka v'mizbeach. Okay. Others learn the gear says kiyar, and then the base for the kiyar. Some say that's the important thing. Right. I mean, how can the kiyar be ma'akev when the klishare is a kasha for kiddush yadayim reglaim? You don't necessarily need a kiyar. So it could be it's the place of them is ma'akev. It means that you can't have kiddush yadayim reglaim from other klishares unless the kiyar is in place. Maybe you still need the kiyar to be in place. Okay. Now, there is some right. Now, the Chora is not like the Chachamim, Amar, Rebbe Lezer, Rebbe Yisrael, Chanina. Because Trein Amrin, they said, Kol hen dichsib noichach. Now, whenever you find an expression of noichach, like where one of the things is facing, like the menorah, it says noichach ha-shulchan, right? Opposite to the shulchan. Ma'akev, then that's essential for Kabbalas. And whenever it just says tzela, like the side of the shulchan, it says the shulchan, you put it on tzela safad, Eina ma'akev, it's not essential. And even when it says tzela, ma'akev is ma'akev the Kabbalas, and menorah, so even therefore the menorah is essential, and the shulchan, he says even where it says sima, it was placed, it should be placed there. Like most Klei HaMikdash, you should put them there. Me'akeves is also essential for Kabbalas. So the Shulchan, the Menorah, the Pareches, Mizbeach Hazav, the Kiyar, they're all essential. So all these Amoraim go against the words of the Chacham and the Brisa who say, they said only the Karka, only the rim and the ledge. And now we're saying everything is essential. So what's the answer? Amar Rav Chananya, Kan ba'avodah shebifnim. Here we're talking about the avodah shebifnim in the heichal, like the ketoras, the menorah, lechem haponim, the various blood on the inner mizbeach. So then these kelim are essential. Whereas kan ba'avodah shebechutz, the Brisa is talking about avodah outside the heichal, like most kabbalas. So there's not ma'akev the kelim inside. Only you need the ledge on the outer mizbeach and the horns on the mizbeach. Rav Chanina said, "Shachsitz gedolah hasbibnei kodim gedolim." It was a great pride, I dare say it, about my ancestors. The kodim gedolim. I would rather miss out this bit, but I'll have to say it. Let's see what they used to do. They would waste, spend money. Do I have to say this piece, Rabbi Isaac? I'll say it quietly. They would spend money on building a sort of ramp for the paraduma. Remember, we said each one would spend the money and build. They wouldn't rely on the one from last time. And then lechaira is not needed. Hayar kivsha shel para I made, if the whole structure was still standing, like, they come and do a new para, and no one would take out their cow at paraduma b'kivsha shel chaver with their friend's one. Ela so they would demolish it. And they would build it afresh with his own funds. They do not treat with importance their predecessors. They have to build their own.
Maybe this is a way of showing such
what?
Diyashak.
Well, the Gemara is not happy. You say that, but the Gemara of Yechanina is definitely not happy with it. Now, it came from pride, but now the Gemara is going to ask. But we've learned, Shimon HaTzadik, he had shtei parais also. He had 2 paradumas. And he didn't use the first one for the second one. He got rid of the first one and he built the second one. Are you going to tell me, Islach Meima Shimon HaTzadik, do you think he was proud? It has to be, there's another reason why they built it. So why did they do it? It's a covered, as you said. It's a covered they're doing. It's a covered. We want everyone to hear about it. Wow, they're building a new structure. Right? Some say Maila, some say it's the idea of Chumrah, to prevent Chashash Tumah, in case the previous ones got holes in the previous structure, or something like that. The Sadokim held that Cohen to Yom, is possible for doing the para. The truth is, it's not like that. And the Chacham said, no, we should be matame the one who's burning the parah before he does it. He should go in the mikvah. He should do it when he is Tvul Yom. Dafka, we want him to do it when he's Tvul Yom, remember? And since they're involved a bit with the tumah, with the asiyas parah, they were worried there'd be a zilzul. They'll do it with the tumah, which is definitely possible. So they said everything else, they should distance from tumah as much as they can. And that's a milah. Okay, they tried to make sure they wouldn't go over any tumah. Tani, we've learned in a braysa, zizin ukesalin, hayotzin mekan mekan. So you had protrusions coming out from the ramp on the sides, mekan mekan, from the two sides. Kadesh le'yatzitzu hakonim, the konim shouldn't look beyond the ramp to beyond it, and they'll be on top of the ground, v'yitamu, and they'll become tameh from things which are underground, which are tameh. Okay, Masechet Shekalim Lishka. Leftovers of the Shiari Lishka, what do they do with it? They would buy wine and oil and flour and then sell it at a profit for other people who needed mincha offerings. That's what Rabbi Shmuel said. Rabbi Akiva said, no, you can't start making profit with hekdesh and also not with the poor. If a person wanted, he can make it tonight. So, if there'll be a loss, you can make a condition. If, let's say, this thing, I'll buy all the flour, and if it goes down in price, I'll take the loss, and I'll pay hekdesh whatever is needed, and the profits hekdesh will take, and then you're allowed to do business with hekdesh if you'll cover all the losses. Kahadol, like the following story, Bazamina is pakid gabe medadi yasmin. He was given money of orphans. Asked the Shada Rabbana, he came to ask Rabbana, is he allowed to do business with that money? Amalei, and Rabbana said, if you will do it in a way that the loss will be yours and the profit can be shared, if you make that condition, then it's permitted to do business with their money. So although the Mishnah Rabbi Akiva learned, usually you can't use money of hekdesh, so obviously you shouldn't use aniyin money, but here he allowed him to do business like this, where the loss will be on him, and the orphans will only get a share in the profits. So the same thing, you can do this even with the hekdesh as well. Rabbi Akiva equates the two. Rabbi Chia Barada is pakid gabei madadi yasmin. He was given money of orphans, and he did this. He made business. He made a condition, he'll take on all the losses. Now, in the first part of the Mishnah, Rabbi Shmuel said, the leftover Sheri Lishka, they would buy wine and oil and sell it at a price and make a profit that way. And the schar would go to hekdesh. Rabbi Akiva argued, he said, you can't make a business with money of hekdesh. And then it says, Rabbi Shmuel said, leftover of the fruit goes to kayetz hamizbeach. Now, what does he mean by this? Kula de Rishmahi. This did Rabbi Shmuel in the Sefer, about Maisa Peres, you're using for kayetz hamizbeach, it's a continuation of what he said in the beginning. The leftover Shari Lishka, they would do business with the wine and the oil. Hekdesh will get the profit. And then, and this profit would be called Maisa HaPeres. And he tells me that Schar Hekdesh, which he said, it means you would use it for Kayetz HaMizbeach. That actually is the profit we're talking about. Now that's also an explanation from Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi Yosef Pasuk Masnisa, he explained the Mishnah. Maisa Peres, what does it mean? It's Schar Hekdesh. It's the profit that hekdesh gets from selling flour, which was bought in Sheri Lishka, and that's what Rishmael mentioned above. Maisa Nesachim, when Rabbi Akiva mentions that, Zusar Ravis. That is the profit by buying 4 sar of Nesachim, where it was agreed a price of 3 originally, and because the price changes, and the profit that comes about from that sale is called Maisa Nesachim. Now another opinion as to what Maisa Peres says and what Maisa Nesachim is. He explained like this: Maisa Peres, which Rishmael mentions, Saravis. That's the extra sar when prices go up or down. The hekdesh receives when you get 4, when at a price of 3. And Maisa Nesachim, which Rabbi Akiva mentioned, is Beirutsim. Now this is when you heap up the measurements. Yeah, if you're providing flour for the flour offerings, you would measure with a heat measure. You would fill up the container a bit above the edge even. And the Cohen, he sort of takes a handful, which is the shir for menachas, and the extra flour above the measure, that's Maisa Nesachim. Okay? So now, let's let Rabbi Yehuda by Yosef Lebirutzim. Does Rabbi Chia by Yosef hold that the hekdesh get some profit out of these extra measures? Surely that they would get that. So why does he learn in the case where, he doesn't fit in like that? He explains our mission in a way, he doesn't say like which Tanner it is. Rabbi Yosef holds, he says, look, The din with the fourth one, when it goes up in price and you get the profit that way, that applies with the over measures as well, with the heat measures. So our Mishnah, which talks about Masechet Nesachim, there's an argument, that could also go on Saravias and also Birutzim as well. It's all the same idea, isn't it? It's like a heat measure is slightly more, and they get benefit that way. Now, it seems to be that our Mishnah is according to Rabbi Chiya bar Yosef, and not according to Rabbi Yochanan. Adar to Rabbi Chiya bar Yosef, according to Rabbi Chiya bar Yosef, that Masechet Paris is this profit that Hekdesh makes from business in wine, and like Rishmal said, Nicha. So I understand the end of the Mishnah, that Rabbi Akiva and Chaim, Cohen, they didn't agree to Rishmal with the Paris, because they argue on Rishmal, and they hold aim in Sakrim Hekdesh. You can't do business with Hekdesh. Or not with the money of the poor, like Rabbi Akiva said at the beginning. So according to them, there's no Masechet Paris, because you can't do business with it. That's what the Mishnah said, Zeh b'zeh, Rabbi Akiva and Cohen, they would not agree to Rishmal the Paris with this Masechet Paris. But according to Rabbi Yochanan, it's difficult. What is Masechet Paris that Rishmal is talking about? Some profit that Hekdesh makes with the fourth sar. And we've learnt that one who takes upon himself to provide flour at a given rate, say 4 sar for a seller, if the price went up and now it's 3 sar for a seller, Yisapek Ma'arba, he still has to provide the 4 as agreed from the beginning. Now this, no one argues here. Sounds like everyone agrees that Hekdesh will now have the 4th sar. But Taninan, and yet we've learnt in our Mishnah, would not agree with it. Now the Mishnah says, Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Hanani don't agree to Rishmal with Paris. With the 4th sar, it sounds like everyone agrees. So it must be the Paris of our Mishnah is not the 4th sar. There must be something different. And not like Rabbi Yochanan who want to say they're all the same. So the Gemara answers, really the truly Masechet Paris mentioned in the Mishnah is the 4th sar. Like Rabbi Yochanan explains. And when we say both of them didn't agree with Paris, it means Rabbi Akiva, they wouldn't agree to Rishmal that money of the 4th sar, you should use it for oil offerings. They did agree that you can use that money of the 4th sar when you've made that profit, but according to them, it goes for buying kli shares. You hear that? They didn't agree that it should be used for kavanas, but they do agree that you can buy kli shares. So according to all opinions, Hekdesh would earn money with the extra growth, the fill up, the froth on top, as it were, when you fill the kalim a bit more. And according to Rabbi Akiva, this money would go for kli shares. Ad kadon berutzei tzibur. I understand this extra amount, which was in communal offerings, because it belongs to the tzibur, to kli shares, coming from the tzibur. Afilu berutzei yachid. Do we say this extra amount also goes for kli shares even when it comes from an individual? Then the kalim are coming from an individual. So the answers, from an individual, you can buy kli shares. Tiny like that, we've learned in the Brayso. Isha asked us to say as libna, if she made clothes for a Kohen Gadol, her son, the kashera is kosher for him to use it. She has to provide it and give it over to the tzibur. Although the Kohen's clothes needs to come from the tzibur, since this woman is giving it wholeheartedly for the tzibur, it's kosher as if it's coming from the tzibur. So these over measures, the overfills at the top of the keli of a private carbon, the individual is giving it for the tzibur, it's kosher to buy kli shares. That's all very well, the extra fillings of like wine, oil, because they become holy, even though the mashkin, which is a bit higher, it all goes to Kaz Mizbeach. But the truth is, even dry extras, the flour, also belongs to Hekdesh and goes to the Kaz Mizbeach, so it might not be inside the keli, right? It might have been on top. The flour might go a bit up beyond the sides of the keli, but it's still considered holy. Like we've learned in Tosfos Sefta in Menachos, Berutei Lech Kodesh, the extra amounts of liquids are holy. Berutei Yabesh Chulin, the extra amounts of the solid are Chulin. Why the liquids are holy? Because the liquids, sort of, they're anointed from the inside. But the extras from Yavesh, from dry solids, is not holy. It wasn't, on the inside, the outside. It says here, with Yavesh, clean midas of Yavesh weren't anointed. With liquids, he holds like Rabbi Yossi, although they weren't anointed only from the inside, but the birutzim, this overfill, is also holy because of the liquids. Some change the girsa. Some say they were anointed inside and outside. That might be like the view of Rabbi Kiva. Whether these vessels, and you've got these measures, whether liquid or solid, if there's another carbon that needs nesachim, yakrivu ima, you can offer up these extras with it. If you don't have another carbon that needs nesachim, yimachru, you sell them, and the money goes to kaisim mizbeach. So you see in this brisa that even the extra dry belongs to hekdesh, and it goes to the mizbeach. Okay. Okay. We said even the kelim which were put in place on ma'akev. So they say the aron, the mizbeach. How did they bring karbonos and ketores when the aron was captured? Until Shlomo built a Beis Mikdash. There was no aron in the Mishkan. So how did they bring karbonos? I understand Beis Mikdash Sheni, there was no aron. Maybe it was hidden in the Beis Mikdash, but you couldn't see it. So some learn, even the Sima is Ma'akev, the aron is not Ma'akev. There was a head of Mechitza of its own. It wasn't Ma'akev, even for Avodah of the Heichal. Maybe it wasn't so essential if the aron wasn't there. Okay? Right. What do we have here? We had Rebbe. What did Rebbe say? We had that bit. Rebbe said, Omer Ani. We had that. Not sure. Okay. Right. Ma'isa HaKetoros, yeah? Oh, here we go. Ma'isa HaKetoros. So you've got Ketoros left over at the end of the year. We can't bring it in the new year because it was bought from last year's coinage. So what would we do with it? What do we do with it now? We separate an amount to pay the the payment of the workers of Hegdesh. And we redeem the Ketores, which is left, our mois, on money to pay the wages of the workers. And that way the Ketores gets redeemed, as it were, and it goes to Chulin. Okay? We couldn't just put it straight on money, and this money go and buy Ketores, because it doesn't look very good to sell it and go and buy it back. So it's better, we don't want the Ketores looking like it's going to Chulin. It seems just with Ketores they were worried. It looks pretty bad with Ketores to just sell it and buy it back. We don't want to do that. Dovid could be redeemed. Animals, many times you could redeem it with a blemish. And even if you're redeeming it without a blemish, it's not so public. But Ketores, it never goes to Chulin, only now, so it looks a bit bad. Also the Telaim, the Tamidim, the animals, it's different. You can't tell it's gone Chulin, not gone Chulin. Ketores, you're not allowed to make it in its amounts, right? For an individual. And now you're taking it away from Hegdesh, so it looks pretty bad. Okay. The Guinness Baradim brings a rich man who made a silver keli to use in the shul for the festivals, and then he wants to sell it. The Gaboim said his Hegdesh belongs to the shul, and then they checked. It doesn't have a din Hegdesh, it can be sold, but it's better. Although mutter, you're allowed to make it chulin, it's good that you shouldn't melt it down. Just sell it to the Gabbai in the shul, like they did with Shiora Ketores. So try and find out another way of transferring its holiness. So, B'noisnin Isa, and we can give the Ketores, which is now chulin, lo'omnin b'scharam. We can give it to the workers with their wage, as their wage, instead of the money. Then we buy it again from the workers with the money with Truma Chadasha from this year's coinage. Okay. Yeah. All right. Now, if Rosh Chodesh Nisan was in its proper time, like 30th day from the beginning of Adar, we can buy the Ketores straight away from the workers with the money of Truma Chadasha, of the new Truma, which we're separating Bim Lav, but it wasn't. Basically, Rosh Chodesh Nisan, maybe it was the next day, on the 31st day, then we can buy the leftover Keteris from the workers with the money, Menei Yeshana, from the old money. Now, they would be Mechalel the Keteris on money which was there set aside to pay the workers, which is money of Hegdish. So it sounds like they're Mechalel on money which is, as it is, holy. So how can you do that? How can you be Mechalel on something holy on something else which is also holy? So Lonis a Hegdish Mischalel on Hegdish. Therefore it's getting Chilul on Hegdish. So how can you do this? You can't be Mechalel Hegdish on something which is already Hegdish. So what do you do? I'm not sure about that. Maybe Mars, you bring money which is going to pay their wages. Mechalel ala binyan. We go round about. What do? We mechal the money on the building, which was like built as chulin, and you need to make it holy. So the money loses kedusha, goes onto the building. The money is now chulin. Umevi keteris. Then you bring the leftover keteris and mechal alen, and then you put the kedusha on them on the money of the chulin. But nice and isa, and you give the keteris, which is now not holy, lo'omnin to the workers, bischaron as their wage. So now the leftover keteris would be used to pay the wages of the builders. Now bring another opinion, where the Masechet Keteris would be used to pay the Keteris workers and the Lechem Hapanim people. Rabbi said, Omer Ani, this is what I was going to refer to. Omer Ani, I say, Yinasnu, you should give it as wages, Lebeis Garmu, Lebeis Abtinas. These families should be kid, Befitim HaKeteris, Maaseh Lechem Hapanim. They knew how to make the Keteris and the Lechem Hapanim. Omer Shmuel Rav Yitzchok, hey. And these things were said, providing that Hegdish owed money to these people for malacha in the old work, and then you can use this as their wage with this money, and the old truma money can be used. If we didn't owe them anything for their previous work, then we can't use this money. So he says over here, you often find Rebbe saying that many times in Shas. And why is that? But the Gemara in Saita says, when Rebbe died, then humility died. So Rabbeinu HaKadosh was muflag, right? He had so much humility. When he said, Omer Ani, it's like someone who says, it appears to me, it's my view, right? He's not deciding for sure that the truth is like him. He's saying, if you accept it, then you accept it. Okay. Ruchir Baba asked, Lo hayu chayavin lahen ma'is mishav v'shayna. If Hekdesh didn't owe these workers money, for the old year's work, then what are you going to do now with the money of Machalel, the leftover the Keteris? Also, Rechia Baba, B'Shem Rabbi Yochanan, B'Kaisim B'Henez Mizbech, we use it for oil offerings when the Mizbech is empty. Rabbi Baba Kaid, B'Kum Rabbi Yisa, B'Chavish Las Rechia Baba, we have a contradiction. Taman Tzvichalei, then his question with money was in doubt, he's not sure about it, what to do with it. B'Kaid Shitale, here he's sure that the money goes for Kaisim Mizbech, right? So he knows what to do with it. But elsewhere, he wasn't sure what to do with it. So you know why he had a question about it? B'klisharis, that's the use of money for buying klisharis. That which he was sure about, b'kais mizbeach, is for the use of money for the Ola offerings. So he always knew you can use this money for Ola offerings, but he didn't know if you could use it for buying klisharis. Okay? This question, if Kedushas Masechet Keteris is fitting for buying klisharis, depends on an argument. Let's see. This Palgud, we have an argument. Amaron, Pitzma b'chulin. If you made the Keteris in chulin kalim, which are not klisharis, Rabbi Yosef he said, Pasula, you can't offer it up. But the Keteris needs kiddush kli in a proper keli. Rabbi Levi almost said kashera is kosher to use. Keteris doesn't need a keli to prepare it. Right, so he wasn't sure about this, didn't they argue? So he had a suffix, is there Kedushas Masechet Keteris on fitting to use it to buy klisharis. If the Keteris needs a proper keli, then the leftover Keteris is like something holy through klisharis. And, you can use it therefore to buy klisharis. If, however, it doesn't need a keli, holy keli to make it, then the leftover Keteris is not something holy through klisharis, and the money should not be used to buy more klisharis. Now the Gemara brings the source of Yosef Chanina, Rishub, and Levi about whether Keteris needs Kiddush Kli Sharis or not. Ma'atam Yosef Chanina, he says, why is it that he holds it's possible? Because he holds Kodesh he should have Yasa but Kodesh. It should be Mekudeshes and the Kli Sharis from the beginning holy. Ma'atam Rishub and Levi, Why is the other the Keteres, which is Nas B'chol, why is it kosher if it's done in a keli which is not holy? How does he use the pasuk? Kodesh he should he bar b'trumas halishka. It's holy that it should come from the trumas halishka, the funds, right? It's got to come from the tzibur, not from an individual. I don't need to tell you that it needs to be holy from the very beginning. Rabbi Yosef Ribun, Asya, the Rabbi Yosef Chanina, Kivishmuel, and Rabbi Levi, Rabbi Yochanan. So let's see now. So we're seeing now Rabbi Yochanan is like Rabbi Levi, that Keteres doesn't need to go in a holy keli when it's made. The Tanina, we've learned Hamagdish Nechasav. Someone who makes Nechasim holy without saying Bizbeach, Bedek Habayis, and the din is, if your Kabbalah is Bedek Habayis, V'hayim and Dvayim Ruin LeKabbalah is Sipur, if there are things like animals, Rabbi Yochanan, Amar Keteres, Rabbi Yochanan said, according to Rabbi Yochanan, it could be you'll find, it's Keteres. If there's Keteres coming from an individual, if it's fitting for a tzibur. So basically, holds Keteres is not holy in a klisharis, it's still kosher to be Keteres for the tzibur. That's what Rabbi Yochanan holds. So what's this again? So V'hayim Dvayim Ruin LeKabbalah Tzibur, then use it for common tzibur. Rabbi Yochanan said even Keteres, it could be Keteres as well. Now, what does he mean? One who's making things holy. You can't mean other things not Keteres. So what are we saying? Keteres doesn't need to be made holy. Rabbi Yosef Chanina held Keteres has to be made holy. So he explains like this. Tifta, he explained the mission that family who made the Keteres showed no Keteres. They would take Keteres as their reward, as their wages. And this Keteres was in their holy Rishus. And then you can explain the Mishnah talking about it was made holy in a holy keli, and then it came to an individual as chulin. You don't have to say that it was made not in a holy keli and it's kosher. No, it could be it was made in a holy keli. Okay. Rabbi Yosef Chanina, his view is like Shmuel. Shmuel, that the grinding of the Keteres that made it holy to make the Simonim holy. So basically, the Keteres needs to go in a holy keli at the time of the production. Okay, let's see here. All right, I think let's see. Is there anywhere? Oh, we'll carry on. He said, "Dava shekadosh v'klisharis nifter." Now, something which is made holy in a klisharis, and how are you going to redeem it? And the Mishnah says you would be mechalel it on money, and the Keteres goes to chulin. So it sounds like they didn't do it in a holy vessel, because if it's a holy vessel, how are you redeeming it? How are you doing it? So it seems to be not like Shmuel. Amalei says, "V'loy de Shmueli." Isn't this Shmuel who said this, that the machteshes, the grinder, was a klisharis to make the Keteres holy? There's no question. The Shmuel Amar Kalu b'Maisa. It was a leniency with Karbonas Sibur, which were left over, that you can redeem them even though they've got Kedushas Haguf. Yeah, you hear that? It's a special leniency, you can still redeem it. That's what he held. He's lenient with Pidyon of Karbonas Sibur. The Hispalgon, we have Machlekes Shmuel and Rabbi Yochanan, Asiru Tamimim. I think, you know what, I'm going to do this next time. I know, but I'm going to go over it again. Okay. I'll go over it again. We'll go over this again, this Amud. When we go back to Rabbi Yochanan Keteres, something like that. Okay.